Hey guys, Moose here. Welcome back to another episode of Goblins of Elderstone. We're going to be seeing, well, basically whether or not the game runs. Last time we had a tremendous number of crashes over and over again, so hopefully that's not going to be the case this time. That may kind of put a damper in my ability to continue the series. I'm hoping that's not what happens, but it's, I don't know. Difficult to gauge at this point. Unfortunately, we lost everything that happened last time because it crashed and therefore it didn't save. There's no autosave, I don't think, so we're basically back to just kind of waiting for stuff to get built and hoping that winter goes the same way it did. We just kind of survive. That's really what we're looking for here. So we are going to, I don't think I can pause any of that, so I'm really just relying on those two peons to get to work. Probably not going to work. Let's try to take this opportunity to kind of explore the game a little and see, we can't really do much right now, but we can maybe like just read and learn around the map while time is passing. So this is like a wooden resource node. I think I'm just selecting like a oh, why is it like a... That's a graveyard. This specific tree is a graveyard. Maybe like this stone structure is supposed to be a graveyard, and this is something else. I don't know. It's hard to say. That's stone, pretty clearly. The dark stuff is sometimes stone, but only so like the triangle ones are not available, but the more meaningfully rendered ones are actually resource nodes. And then I think the smaller ones might be where they actually go, as you can see here. Yeah, he's carrying some stone. What are you holding? Doesn't tell me. That's fine. Not gonna stress it. This guy is, I think, a trader? I forget what he was. A trade prince, yeah, trade prince. Okay, so he's, just hanging out. You can kind of tell from the backpack. I like the design, by the way. I was talking about this in the last episode. Like, it's crashing like crazy, right? Like, there's clearly programming issues here, but, like, aesthetically, this looks great. Like, from a graphical perspective, I think this is pretty much release ready. Really, it just comes down to content and quality. Okay, so this is interesting. This is like a flax plant. See, this looks great. This is totally, like, this is a reasonably good design. I like this. Solid model. There's some little stuff here. Like, even map generation seems fine. Don't really have any... Really, it just boils down to stability, I think, and content. This looks a little wonky. This is like a... Yeah, this is probably a placeholder, if I had to guess. This is like a berry bush. You could do better. You could do like something along these lines where you'd probably have one of these stems and then kind of go out, like build a skeleton of a bush around it and then put a ton of leaves around and a couple purple. Because the thing is, you don't necessarily need the berries to be on the outside to show it. Like, it could be, depending on the density of the leaves, you could have it kind of inside and the purple would shine through because it's a different color. That could work. You can kind of see. I don't know if these trees are done. I think there's very distinctly two styles here. There's kind of like this where, well, this is actually a combination of both. Not the best example, but like over here, this is perfect. You can see stones like this. This is clearly like, maybe they're not finished with it, but it's definitely like closer to finished. But then you have this big thing, which is just like a mess of triangles. That's more the not finished kind. But he also, they have like moss growing on it, so that's kind of nice. But you can really see like the difference in quality, I think. So this is closer to being a finished product, I think. And what I meant was you can kind of see like the darker stone here is the unfinished kind of thing. But then the lighter, I think, is much more, hey, this is legit. That's like what it's supposed to be. This might be an issue. This is like maybe a quirk of the map generation where you have a ramp leading directly into this stone. I don't know if that's traversable. I wonder if they can cross the... Yeah, there's a bridge. Okay, so you can get across that. But they may not be able to go down here, which is interesting because that may be the only path down. Yeah, it actually is. So I may actually be limited to this upper area, like this plateau, this like hexagon, and then this hexagon. I think they're hexagons. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, they're hexagons, I think. Which I like. I like that. Hexagons are good. They're a good shape for this kind of thing from a map standpoint, so that's nice. We have this area over here. This seems like a special sort of thing. This also has the unfinished. Anyway, the reason I brought up the finished, unfinished side, hopefully that all that combat. Ronan died in combat to a skeleton. So we lost one. That's okay as long as no one else dies, because we're going to get children. But yeah, I was looking at this, I'm like, okay, this looks like a finished tree, right? You don't really need to make this any more complicated than it is. You could if you wanted to, but I think this fits fine with the aesthetic. Maybe you want a little bit of texturing in there, but what about these guys? This maybe isn't done based on if I'm looking at rocks correctly and they're not just doing two different styles, which is totally possible and it would be reasonable to do. Maybe these are unfinished, and if those are unfinished, you know, honestly, the trees are not the same triangle stuff, but it's similar, right? Like, this is similarly basic. Maybe they want to... Or maybe that's unfinished too. I don't know. So maybe there is a little bit of graphical stuff that's unfinished. And actually, I haven't looked at the skybox or anything yet. That actually looks really nice. I'd love to see it in, like, summer, fall, and spring too, but this looks really good. I think... really all around, and we can see the buildings here too. I think the buildings are probably the first thing that they finish. Most likely. Can I kind of see inside there? A little bit. Not totally, like it's... Is that... Ooh, okay, interesting. So that's actually... You may not be able to notice this very well, but if you look through that window, you're clearly seeing all the way through, but if you go over to the other side, you shouldn't be able to see all the way through, right? And it's much more noticeable here. I think, let me see if I can see another building through this. Yeah, you totally can. Okay, so that's gotta be, yeah, okay, so I can tell you basically what's happening there. The outer side, the outside of the structure, that is like solid, but when you're making an object in a game or any kind of program, like any kind of visual thing like this, one side being opaque and solid does not automatically mean the other side is too. So I think that's what happened there. So that's something that they'll have to fix. Minor detail. Not a big deal. That's the kind of thing you'd expect to see in like a early access game, I think. Like that's an encouraging thing to see. Because they've clearly, like, they're putting effort right now into what actually matters in the short term, and there's some polishing and like cleanup like that where it's okay, are most people going to notice that? I would say very few people are going to see that. So, you know, that's a reasonable thing to not worry about right now, I think. So it's I don't mind that at all, but it's kind of cool to see little things like that and see like, oh, they haven't done that yet, and it doesn't matter. That's not something that matters. Would be really interesting. Can you get, okay, so this is cool, interesting point here. You might expect that like the bottom of this was see-through because of that. And maybe this is unique to that building. And you can kind of see why they would forget about that, because if you look here... Oh, this one's actually... It doesn't have a floor at the bottom, but it's not... It doesn't have that issue, I don't think. It's kind of hard to get an angle where you can tell, but I think it doesn't have that same issue. Oh, it might, actually. Because if I can see down through there, I'm kind of looking through a wall. This makes me think I'm looking through a wall right there. Yeah, okay, so it's the same problem there, but you wouldn't, like, it's so hard to get an angle on this that would let you do that, that it's pretty much not noticeable. The other one is much more noticeable because that building is designed to be kind of open. You don't have many of those so far out of what we've seen. So it's reasonable to think, that's not something they've worked on yet. And like I said, good. Work on stability. You're selling the game, it's early access, work on stability. You want people to not, especially at this stage, you don't want it. If you put out a game in early access like this and charge money for it, and then it crashes as much as this is, it's very easy for people to come around and be like, hey, screw you guys, you screwed me out of my money, give me my money back, this is a rip-off, it's not running. Whether it's early access or not, the fact remains you charge money for it. So the most critical thing to worry about right away, you don't have to have too much content, it doesn't have to look perfect, it doesn't have to be perfect at all. People understand it's early access, but you do need to have it be at least passably stable. Because otherwise why are you charging, And it turns into a situation where you can very easily get, it's not really public opinion, but it follows the same principles, I think. You kind of get public opinion turning against you. You can't really afford that. If you're an indie developer trying to make a game like this that's niche in the first place, you can't have problems like that where basically the game's just not even playable. I mean, if there's no game to play, it's fine if hey, if you're in this one really specific situation, you're gonna crash. And it's fine to have non-specific crashes that happen all the time as long as they're short-lived and you resolve them. But if they're consistent, we're doing okay right now, but we've literally done nothing but look around because we're waiting for the game to kind of get past the early stage, which did I talk about that in the last episode? How Planet Base also has a very slow beginning. These games all seem to have a very slow beginning, and no one really does anything to remedy that. It's very interesting. It seems such an obvious thing that you'd say hey, the gameplay is really stagnant and slow in the early game. Maybe we should kind of introduce a short. I thought I had a really good solution to the Planet Base issue, which was that you should have as a player the ability to kind of interject and manually make something by playing a little mini game. You'd say, hey, I'm gonna go process some ore into metal. And you can go into the tool and do it by hitting some combination of keys or something. Okay, here we go. I think this is the same one. Oh no, this is the strange old woman who screwed us last time. Good, nothing happens. I don't know if it's random and you're just taking a chance. I don't know. I'm really curious about that. If it screws you every time or what. I'm glad nothing happened though, because the first event, I was thinking about this earlier. The first event basically being no matter what you do, you're losing at least 2 goblins and maybe you get a reward from it when you only start with 8 is really bad. That event should not exist in the first year. Later, look, this number is real big, so then that's fine. But if you're doing that right off the bat, that kind of screws the whole game. And you can see that in what we're doing here. It's way too slow. But yeah, I'm really shocked that no one's really done anything like what I just suggested for... Is that going to be too close? I think that's going to be too close. Can I do this? Maybe not. I don't think destroying the building does any... I'm worried about it being too close to the campfire. I don't know if that's a thing where it's going to catch on fire now or what, but yeah, I'm really surprised no one's done anything to kind of speed up the early game in games like this, because it seems like such an obvious thing that you would want to do. I think my idea for Planet Base is perfect, because you're limiting its effectiveness naturally, because a player can only do one at a time, and if they want to just tediously bang away at making a thing, then fine, let them. Who cares? It's not even a competitive game, so why would you care if you give them the ability to do some really weird min-maxing that's kind of tedious and boring, Just give them that ability so that they can kind of get things going a little bit faster in the early game and move on. It's not hurting anyone to do that. In something like Life is Feudal, it's a little bit harder, I think, and you kind of have that option because you can take over an individual person and have them go cut down a tree or something like that. I think is good. Does it go far enough to solve the problem? kind of think it might. I haven't been in the early game in Life is Feudal in a really long time, so it's hard to say, but it's reasonable. What about here? I think here you would just start with more goblins. I would want to tweak the starting number of goblins first and then kind of go from there. But, I mean, that's the least of this game's issues right now. It really starts and ends with stability at the moment. They need to resolve that, and then we can start talking about, okay, well, from a balance standpoint, you should do this and that. But that is a conversation they need to have at some point, because they can't just... Let me save so I don't have to redo all this over again. Save. Oh, I can actually name it. I didn't know I could name it. Please succeed. Okay, it went to the bottom because this... Hold up. You guys can see this right away, probably. What's happening here? What is this? What's the order these are in? Let me give you a hint. This is a poor decision. Why would you say? Why would you store the saves in alphabetical order? Why? That's the worst way to do that. It's not like it's not the end of the world, but like you have to imagine if they did enough to make it happen, it made it show up in alphabetical order, then they had to have done something to organize them. And if you've done something to organize them, do it by date, for the love of God. That is terrible. I'm trying to figure out which one was your last save. You're like, oh God, I can't figure it out. I can't find it. That's messed up. Alright, we got our new people up here, so we're actually making progress. It's fantastic. Kind of crossing our fingers about not having a crash here, but that may not be up to us. Yep, there it goes. Alright. Good thing I saved. So the next question is... Ooh, that was loud. So what happens here? I gotta load Aardvark because that was technically more recent. Is this just at this point in the game, you crash, end of story? Well, then this series is going to be short-lived, and I really hope that's not the case, because this game actually kind of has promise, and I want to keep playing it. I would really like to see what it has to offer. Obviously, more so in the future, when we're talking about, like not a finished product, but closer to a finished product, one that doesn't, like, just actually stop me from playing. But, I want to see more of the game. It seems pretty damn good, if it would work. Like, this, honestly, in a lot of... This looks better than Stonehearth, I'll say that. I suspect that in the end, this will be a better game than Stonehearth. And that doesn't mean that Stonehearth is trash. Okay, so yeah, they're burning. That's... Kind of, I figured that would happen. I kind of blew it there. I almost want them to burn down. I really wish I could destroy the buildings. Oh, they're gone. They're actually gone. That's a good thing. I'm actually happy about that, because that lets me move stuff around. Yeah, this is fine. Just fix this. Oh wow, fire is way stronger than it maybe used to be. Or those buildings had terrible health. Wow, that actually kind of sucked. Okay, what was that? That was the trade hall? No, it was the crafting hut? Yeah, I think that was it. Oh, there we go. There's a fire. Okay, so now I don't understand, because I don't know why that fire is spreading like that. Anyway, make the crafting hut. I'm very confused. Okay, if you guys could go ahead and put out the fire, that'd be pretty swell. Looks like they're doing it. Oh, we haven't crashed. So I don't know, maybe the fire starting crashed it the last time? I don't know. I think judicious saving is going to be what resolves this. Just manage it as carefully as possible. I don't really like... Well, this is... Okay, well, come on.
Zala!
Oh, they're rioting. That's okay, they're right. Well, dude, if you burn down the new housing, then you're just going to continue to be overcrowded. There's not really a whole hell of a lot that I can do about it. You know that, right? You guys really are not doing yourself any favors here. I hope you understand that. And it's not like I could have just built more housing before this all became an issue. That was not really up to me. I hope you guys know that. I don't know what's going on down there. I'm not going to worry about it right now. See, if you guys like build the housing, then we don't have a problem. Hope you realize that. And this is back to being the first tutorial. Yeah, there's issues here. This, honestly, I think, from what I've seen so far, I definitely see why you would be tempted to put this on Steam and charge for it. I definitely understand that, because it looks good. This looks like a game that's further along in development than it is, but given where this is at in development, this is not a reasonable thing to charge money for. I'm sorry, you can't... It's not playable. Like, it's... If you bash your head up against it long enough, you might be able to play it. And we are kind of, quote, and I'm doing air quotes right now, play it, but there's definitely, like, some issues there, and it's not a simple thing to just say, yeah, it's playable. It's got some pretty severe issues that make it difficult to experience, I guess, is the way that I'd say this. So yeah, they need to... I would have maybe given it like a few more months before they started charging for it on Steam. I definitely understand why, and maybe they're in a financial situation where they need to do that, I don't know. But it's a little rough. Definitely rough around the edges, and I don't know. I'd like to know more about the situation and why they threw it up on Steam and what they're looking for here, really. But at any rate, we made it through an episode with only one crash, so that's actually an improvement. I don't think any patches have gone up, but, you know, it's better than it was, so that's a plus. I think we're going to end the episode there, so thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you'll join us the next one as well. If you did enjoy it, you can come by twitch.tv/electronicmoose. Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Check out a stream if you'd like. If not, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.